Went to a motel and met a strangling ghost. In 2017, the two of them had just gotten married, but her husband lived with her husband, because her husband's house was in the countryside, and hers was in the city. Although that year they really wanted to move out on their own, partly because they didn't have enough money, partly because they wanted to save money to have children, but to be honest, her house was quite good. It's small, but up to 3 generations live together. But because they were newlyweds, everyone in the family favored giving them a floor so that the couple could have a little privacy. But it's because it's upstairs, so no matter what they do, it makes noise. So they are very shy, so they can't have children forever. Later, we decided to watch the day of ovulation and go out and rent a hotel to have sex. We usually go to a familiar hotel near our house, but because of that day, the guests this hotel is under renovation, so we had to find another hotel located on ABC Street. When we entered this hotel, we were told by the staff that there were no rooms available, so we both just took the car out. From inside, a rather old woman ran out and called out to the two of us if we had a room, and a room. That woman just ran out with the room key and put it in her husband's hand, telling them to leave the car and a staff member would take it in later. Then she turned back inside and shouted loudly, cursing at the employee, saying, "If you keep doing business without paying attention like you guys, the only way is I'll die." Her husband didn't pay any attention and just went up to the room. Once inside, her husband took the opportunity to take a shower. Because he had actually just come home from work, she quickly climbed into bed to lie down, then took out her phone to butt press. While lying like that, she suddenly smelled a foul smell, like the smell of the dead body of some animal. She sat up and bent her head under the bed to look. Try to see if there are any dead cockroaches or mice. Then she discovered that there were a lot of used condoms under the bed, and there were a lot of them underneath. Then she sat up and knocked on the bathroom door to complain to her husband, "Husband, this hotel is so dirty. Didn't they clean it up? There's a lot of condoms under the bed." But she didn't hear her husband answer and she heard the sound of running water inside, then her husband's scrubbing and whistling sounds, and that day her husband even played dance music to take a bath. At this moment, I feel a bit strange, because before my husband showers very quickly and I have never seen my husband listen to dance music, but I think that's okay. I also ignore it. I think my husband might have changed a bit today. I just went back to bed to lie down and fall asleep without realizing it. While sleeping, I dreamed of a pair of feet hanging from the window in this room. Those feet were it's purple all the time, it's swollen and there's a lot of flies attached to it, and the smell it gives off is very horrible. This smell is so bad that it makes me wake up. She woke up startled and saw her husband standing right at the head of the bed, staring at her. She calmed down and then started whining to her husband, "Why did you take so long to shower today? Half an hour." I was so tired that I tried to take advantage of it, but my husband still didn't bother to answer. Her husband just looked at her, then covered his mouth and laughed, then threw the towel at her. I thought it was my husband telling me to go take a shower. I also tried to hurry because I thought I was afraid that after the second hour they would charge me more for the room. When she opened the door and stepped out, she was startled. Her husband was not wearing anything and was in a very strange position. Standing against the window, his head turned to one side, his feet were propped up on the door frame. She just laughed and said to her husband, "What position are you learning today? Are you crazy or something?" Her husband didn't answer at her. doesn't care about her feelings at all but is so embarrassed and then laughs in a very scary tone. Then she got a little panicked. She slapped her husband's face a few times and shouted, "What's wrong with you today?" At this time, her husband asked her, "What is your name, where is your home?" Although I was a little scared, I thought that my husband was joking, and then I tried to juggle Theo. "My name is Tina and I live on ABC Street." As soon as I finished answering, my husband tilted his head. He smiled and said crack and asked if you would be my wife. Agree. Then she was confused and told her husband, "Is he crazy today or something?" As soon as she finished speaking, her husband grabbed her neck with his hand, squeezing it very tightly, making her both in pain and unable to breathe, so she used her foot to kick her husband away. Her husband just flew in and hugged her and said, "My name is Tony, this room will be your and my wedding room, Tina." She was so scared that she grabbed her husband's hair with her hand and then slapped him on the face. Then while working, he said, "Husband, husband, I'm here, wife is here." She just grabbed a bottle of water and threw it straight into her husband's face. At that moment, her husband's whole body went weak and he lay fainted on the ground. She reached for some pants. He covered himself with his shirt and ran straight out the door. When she got out, she screamed very loudly, so the two employees downstairs rushed up when they heard her voice and saw her standing in front of the door to call her husband, but because she wasn't wearing anything yet, the two employees were too shy to come. She just used a towel to wrap herself up and then called two staff members to go inside and drag her husband out. At this time, her husband gradually woke up and quickly dressed herself and her husband, then asked her husband to go home immediately. As she left, she told her husband what happened in that room. "Listen, we just asked the receptionist again and she said she just went to work so she didn't know anything, but she heard the lady selling water next to her say that in that room, the way a few months ago, there was a man hanging in that room, right at the window frame. 2 or 3 days later, people discovered this person's body." As soon as she remembered the whole incident, she understood what had happened to her, so she quickly paid the bill and got in the car to drive away. From that day on, she began to suffer because of that day's incident. And this is the end of the story. Everyone who listens to the story finds it interesting. Please give me 1 like and 1 subscriber. I hope everyone has fun listening to the story. See you in the next videos. Goodbye.